Hello everyone, Valdestot here, and on today's video, I found an article on CNBC that kind of parallels what is going on in the food gig space as we speak. And it also parallels what's going on in the fast food and restaurant space. So the title of this video is, "This is what needs to happen for Doordash to change from a driver's perspective." So pretty much the article is this: why many Uber and Lyft drivers are not coming back. And the key points for this are as follows. After a dramatic decline in traveling this past year, people are ready to get moving again. In many cases, they're turning to rideshares, but companies like Uber and Lyft are still struggling to bring drivers back to full speed, leading to longer wait times for customers and higher prices. There's a handful of factors at play when it comes to getting drivers back and convincing new ones to sign up. So, after a dramatic decline in traveling this past year, people are moving again. Yet, despite offering cash incentives, rideshare giants Uber and Lyft are still struggling to bring drivers back to full speed, leading to longer wait times for customers and soaring prices. Uber and Lyft have put millions into these efforts, but some former drivers aren't even looking at these stimulus packages or trying to get in on surge pricing. A large percentage who are still holding out. Drivers are in a quote-unquote low-key strike. Nicole Moore, a volunteer organizer with Rideshare Drivers United, told CNBC. Right now, it's a mini debacle for Uber and Lyft in terms of driver shortages and surge pricing throughout the U.S. Wedbush's Dan Ives said in an email, drivers are around 40% below capacity. Former rideshare drivers are staying off the road for a variety of reasons. For many, it's fear of the continued pandemic, which is what made them stop driving in the first place. Currently, less than 50% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, according to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This thing is not over yet. People can still get sick, Louis Wu, a Texas resident and former rideshare driver, told CNBC. According to Uber, 80% of drivers plan to come back once vaccinated. The company has also heavily invested resources into getting people vaccinated, offering free rides to vaccine spots through early July as a part of its effort to get people back on the road. Others wanting to stay in the gig economy but fearful of transmission have switched to food or grocery delivery. That's also allowed them to put less wear and tear on their cars, especially as gas prices and car parts prices increases. In times of COVID, there's a lot less customer interaction with food delivery versus transporting a passenger in your back seat. Harry Campbell, who runs the Rideshare Guide blog, just said in an email. You also put less miles in your car as a delivery driver since people order from nearby restaurants. That I kind of have to disagree with on Doordash, but hey, versus a full-time ride-hail driver that can easily do 1,000 miles per week or more. A lot of ride-hail drivers just get tired of dealing with people too. Some drivers have also remained on unemployment benefits, which are set to expire later this year. For those former drivers, they may be coaxed back into offering services once extended benefits phase out in the fall. September will be a big telltale sign if drivers are holding out because of unemployment, said Chris Garas, a driver and contributor to Campbell's blog. Better jobs. Uber and Lyft said they thought the supply and demand problems would see recovery in the third quarter, which started July 1. However, if demand continues to outpace supply, it could pressure the rideshare companies to make more fundamental changes to cater to drivers. Uber, for example, is considering funding education and career-building programs, according to the Wall Street Journal. Lyft is also exploring ways to reduce drivers' expenses, according to the report published Friday. But many drivers have gotten a taste of what working outside of the gig economy is like. Moore said she knows former drivers who have since gotten office jobs or switched to driving semi-trucks with no intention of coming back. Some gig workers have become increasingly frustrated with how the rideshare giants pay out, especially as surge pricing continues. The Washington Post reported last month that despite the high rates passengers are paying, drivers aren't getting their fair cut, and drivers have continued to call out the companies, saying it's increasingly difficult to make a living on the apps, especially when compared with the early days of the companies. When I started driving, I was guaranteed 80% of the fare, Moore said. If that's where we were now, you would see a very different equation on the road. Drivers are seeing 20, 30, 40% of the fare at times. But it's a question of if rideshare companies will listen and be open to fundamental changes, Garas said. The shortage also comes parallel with Uber and Lyft's promise to reach profitability on an adjusted EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, adjustments, right? Basis on the end of the year, and pressure on the balance sheet could make that goal even harder. If these companies had a paradigm-shifting core belief, you could have good pay for drivers, you could have good competitive rates, and you could become profitable and have that win-win-win. But you have to take that initiative and be open to trying new things, Garas said. Uber declined to comment, pointing to an April blog post on its $250 million stimulus. A Lyft spokesperson pointed toward comments its president, John Zimmer, made in late May, saying the company was extremely confident in supply recovery. So, are you seeing the parallels here? Yes, we are food delivery drivers, and we do drive, for the most part, less miles than rideshare does. But the parallels are the same. It all comes down to the things we all keep talking about. Pay versus distance. And if the pay continually decreases, it puts more stress on your car to take the longer distance trips to make up for that loss of revenue, that loss of pay. We keep talking about this over and over again. Your car is your investment, just like a truck driver, an independent contract truck driver, right? They need to make enough income to justify taking the job. And if all the jobs are not worth taking for those distances, you're going to find less and less drivers willing to do so, because there's going to come a point in time when the pay becomes so low that only top dashers or new drivers will be willing to take those low offers. I said this in our last video when we were on that mini ride along, which we hoped we would have more orders come in, but we only had 3 come in close to 20 minutes. Summer slowdown, or whatever you want to call it aside, Doordash lowered the base pay. Whether to become profitable or to basically appease their shareholders or for whatever reason, the fact is the base pay came down. And in order to compensate, they're hoping drivers will take the longer distance offers and take the lower paying offers if it's under 3 miles, right? That is not really a solution. That is strong arming drivers to do what you want them to do, not as independent contractor business people wants to do. You're forcing them to do what you want to do. There's a big difference in that. So are you willing to take, as an independent contractor driver, willing to take a $6 order going 10 miles one way? Depending on the market you're in, you may get an offer out that way, or it may put you out of the zone, or you may have to have dead miles back. We've discussed this over and over again. But the fact remains, expenses are increasing, whether it's in gas, car parts, as the CNBC report said, just overall expenses are going up. So what is the point of taking an offer if you're breaking even or actually losing money? You have to think of it like a business person. So at one point in the article, they were basically saying that it was kind of like a mini strike. A lot of drivers, whether it's pandemic related or fight for fairer wages related, if it is a mini strike, then the only way to force their hands is to just not drive for them. I know what some of you are going to say. Well, there's a lot of top dashers out there, and there's a lot of people that just don't care. They'll just say, you know, take any offer, make your money, hustle, whatever it takes, multi-app. I'm on the other side of the fence. The point here is yes, you have to learn how to adjust if you want to be in the gig app economy. However, why are these companies forcing independent contract business owner drivers into multi-apping, which causes more stress, bigger risks for accidents because you're speeding? When you're hustling, that means you're always on the go. You're taking risks, like going through yellows because you don't want to wait at a red light. Believe me, I was one of them, okay? Was being the operative word. When you have to hustle, the majority of drivers drive erratically and are unsafe. They'll blow through red lights. They'll speed. They aren't paying as much attention except just what's in front of them, because their mission is to deliver that order quickly so you can get to the next order. And for the multi-appers, there's two types. One, you'll take the best order and pause the other app. Or two, you could take one order, and if you get another order going the same direction, they'll take both orders, and that puts even more stress on you. Why are these gig apps forcing drivers that need to make a living risk their safety for their financial well-being, for money's sake? It is not right. It is not safe. We are putting our lives on the line to make a buck, and it just takes one accident. And I made that video before on the insurance. The majority of drivers do not have business or commercial insurance. One mistake, because these gig apps don't care if you have that business or commercial insurance or not, and to get it, it costs on average of close to $300 extra a month, depending on the state you live in, depending on your record. It still is increasing your expenses just to work for these gig app companies like Doordash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, right? Some of the platforms are better than others. Like I said before, Uber and Uber Eats is probably the best when it comes to protecting the driver's interest by offering trip insurance when you're on an active order or driving to the customer, etc. But they still recommend that you have your own business insurance, kind of like gap insurance, in the event that something falls through. DoorDash, yeah, they give you liability protection, but that's not going to help you on your own vehicle if you are involved in an accident that you cause. So again, nothing is going to change. It is their app. And I know what some trolls out there are going to say. If you don't like it, quit. That is their standard MO, and that solves none of the issues or none of the problems, because they don't have any critical reasoning other than just the quit word. One track mind. They'd rather just say quit instead of trying to actually solve the problem. So, in other words, it's either strike or day of protest in unison, hit them where it hurts, their wallets. If they lose millions of dollars in a day because the majority of drivers just take a day off at the exact same time, which I'm a proponent for, but I'm only a small channel. It would have to come from the bigger channels to even make a dent. So unless that happens, or on the customer side, they know our plight, and all the customers start complaining about the unjustness of lowering pay for the drivers, which in my opinion isn't really going to happen, but I'm just saying that's one way of doing it. The customers complain and you go to a different platform that actually takes care of their drivers more. But again, that's a low percentage chance on it working. So if these apps would simply pay a fair wage and increase costs, just like what Uber and Lyft are trying to do with costs or incentives or bonuses or education to, expand your horizons to get into a different line of work. I mean, you heard the article. I read it, okay? It all boils down to fair pay. That's it. But, it just seems like they're just going to fight it tooth and nail because they simply don't care. They care about their shareholders. They care about their CEOs. Multi-million dollar, pay for meeting incentives, and if they meet their quota, right? They will literally just focus on that, and drivers are just dead last. It's just a fact of life. The workers get the shaft. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just stating facts. So anyway, folks, that's it. It's just parallels. If workers don't work, they don't get their deliveries delivered. If workers don't show up, that they don't want to apply for work at the fast food and restaurants, look what happened. Pay increased to entice drivers back. The only downfall I see of having a harder time for food delivery drivers, gig app drivers, is there's just so many of us. And I hate to say it, unless drivers just stop signing on to the platforms, as in, trying to get on Doordash, get on Uber Eats, get on Grubhub, they're never going to change. There has to be a shortage of workers in order for change to happen. So that's pretty much it, folks. Tell me what you think. Do you agree or disagree with the CNBC News article about the Uber-Lyft parallel and the parallel from fast food restaurants and regular restaurants, how they increased their hourly wages as compared to would it work for gig apps? All right, folks, so tonight is going to be the week 14, I believe. Yeah, week 14 $10 giveaway. So I'm going to prepare for that right now. So take care all and have a good night.